This is Melbourne's seemingly ever-expanding west. These new estates around Werribee have driven one of the biggest population booms in the country. And there's plenty of growing pains, especially when it comes to infrastructure. It's made a once safe Labor seat vulnerable.
I think people do sort of feel like they've been forgotten in this area or perhaps taken for granted.
It depends how much people trust the current government.
Do you trust them?
No, I don't.
These types of suburbs are a critical test for Jacinta Allen. While Werribee has long been a Labor heartland, things have changed. The area has grown, and across the state, Labor is on the nose, which is why it can ill afford to lose seats like this if it's to win a historic fourth term in 2 years' time. Former Treasurer Tim Pallas held the seat by a comfortable 11%, but his exit has opened the door. What drew you to Werribee?
Brand new estates, an opportunity to build something affordable and an upgrade to where we previously lived in Point Cook.
Stephen Chan voted Labor at the past two elections, but he's frustrated with unfinished roads in the area, including this much-touted link to the freeway.
The population's actually growing, and there's just going to be more and more people coming into the area, which means that there's going to be more challenges on the roads.
Like many, Stephen Chan feels the community has been taken for granted.
I think it's time for change, and I think there's a lot of people that I've been talking to locally that are looking for change.
Have you made up your mind?
Not yet.
Statewide polling shows support for the government has crumbled, and this by-election is important because there's more than a dozen Labor-held seats like it across Melbourne.
This part of Melbourne was probably the part of Melbourne that suffered the most during the lockdowns and never really recovered. So they've had to endure the lockdowns and then, of course, 12 interest rate rises. Coupled with infrastructure shortfalls, you've got a perfect storm brewing at the moment.
My name's John.
Local teacher John Lister is the man entrusted by Labor to batten down the hatches.
I'm always up for a fight. I think all my students will attest that if I see something, I'll want to try and fix it.
While Labor is campaigning on building roads and schools, the Liberals' Steve Murphy, a local businessman who lives in Essendon, is tapping into feelings of neglect.
There's just so much that needs doing that that I can draw attention to and you know, put the pressure on, embarrass the government or whatever to be able to do the right thing. We've been left alone for too long.
There's a dozen candidates. Paul Hopper, a local car dealer, looms as the best placed independent to upset the duopoly. His biggest issue?
Crime, yeah, public safety, crime. Second would be roads.
The Werribee result for new Liberal leader Brad Batten is also important. He needs to win at least 17 seats to end Labor's rule in 2026. To do that, he has to make inroads in the outer suburbs.
The narrative that Labor's in trouble in the north and northwest is indeed correct. However, if you look at where the votes went in 2022 at the state election, they mostly went to independents and other parties. The Liberal Party's primary vote in the west and the northwest is still extremely low, and that's a problem for them.
Werribee is the canary in the coal mine. If Labor loses or suffers big swings, there'll be questions from within about the Premier and the direction of her government. The next election is less than 2 years away, so there's time to turn it around, but it will require swift action. Richard Willingham, ABC News, Werribee.